I understand why it's important that we fail. I understand why it's important that we struggle. I understand the importance of all the things that come that don't feel good. The fear of God is healthy because I know that without him, I know where I go. I know what life looks like without him. I need the protection. I need the favor. I need all those things. So,
welcome to the Jesus Storybook Bible Podcast, a place where we remind you that grace can rewrite any story, that hope shines a light through our darkest moments, and that God's love changes lives. Here's your host, New York Times bestselling author, Sally Lloyd Jones.
Hello, I'm Sally Lloyd Jones, author of the Jesus Storybook Bible, which tells the story of God's wonderful, never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. Welcome to the show. One of my favorite authors, E.B. White, said this in Charlotte's Web: "With the right words, you can change the world." Today, we're talking about the power of words to change everything, to change the world, and to change a life. We're talking about the life-saving power that comes into our lives when we admit we can't do it alone, when we surrender to God's grace. And we're also talking about the reason we can all be superheroes in our own lives. You may have seen SuperChef Darnell Ferguson on the Food Network, hosting, guest starring, and even cooking for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. He's built a chain of SuperChef restaurants. He's releasing a new book this year, the SuperChef Family Cookbook, a superhero-themed cookbook that encourages families to enjoy cooking together. Doesn't that sound fantastic? But Darnell didn't always know what he wanted to do when he grew up. Darnell has such a compelling story. He shares humbly and vulnerably with us as he traces his journey from childhood to culinary school. He shares how he ended up in jail and the unexpected way God got him to church. He shares how life is a lot like cooking. And he shares about the teacher who made all the difference, and how ultimately Darnell came to consider not just what he wanted to do when he grew up, but who he wanted to be. And central to everything he does is his great love for children. He has 8 of his own. His heart is to help children see that they can each be the superheroes in their own lives. What a beautiful, empowering, hope-filled gift to give children. And their grown-ups. I know you'll be as blessed to hear from him and as encouraged as I was. So without further ado, please welcome my friend and now yours, Darnell Ferguson.
I'm the SuperChef Darnell Ferguson, now TV personality, executive chef, restaurateur, but I think more importantly, hopefully a man of God, trying to just do some good work while I'm here with the gift I was given. My gift is cooking. I just try to use my gift to connect as many people to my faith as possible. I grew up in the hoods of the hood. It wasn't preached. No one was coming to us. No one's coming to save us. Now there's more people who do that work. But back then, it wasn't really people who went into those neighborhoods and invested into those kids, to us. So therefore, I had nothing to do or no thought about anything when it came to God because I wasn't taught anything about it my whole life. At that point in my life, I still thought that, Jesus and the Bible were more of a folk tale than a real story. So I had no recollection that, God was real and Jesus was like a real thing. I just thought that it was kind of like Jack and the Beanstalk I thought it was just a story we were told as kids. I didn't know it was like a real thing that people were doing. So because I didn't really know a lot about him, because I wasn't really in the church, because my friends weren't in the church and their family wasn't in the church wasn't a thing. So therefore I had all these good feelings and I was a good person and I wanted good things, but I didn't understand why my life didn't match anything that I felt inside. So, going to jail and making a lot of wrong decisions is really what led me to even wanting to go into church in general. I kind of figured out that I didn't have the answers. So I ended up asking the guy I was working for one time. I hated this guy. I couldn't stand him. And I was like, he was a boss of mine, and actually was the owner of the company. And I remember asking him, like, I was so mad that day. And I asked him, I was like, man, do you know a church I can go to? And he was like, yeah, I got one for you. He told me, and I asked him, I don't know why I asked him because I didn't really like him much. But I was so tired of being upset, and being miserable, and being unhappy. And I was so controlled by everybody. I didn't have no self-control over myself. Like, however people responded to me was how I responded to them. And I was so tired of that. Like, I felt like it was exhausting me to give the world back what they was giving me. And I was just so tired that I asked a guy I didn't even like about a church. I went to this one church, and I remember telling him, I said, the church has to be big. I said, it has to be big enough that they'll never ask me to stand up if it's my first time. Because that was a thing that would happen. When, like, the couple times I did go to church when I was younger, they always asked people to stand up if it was your first time there. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to be a fly on the wall and see what this is about. And I went the first time out of like anger, out of like just discontentment of the world and life, that when I went, the pastor was speaking that day on who we really are. And I remember crying like a baby. And I remember like thinking, like, my whole life, I felt like these things he was saying were true to me, but I had no idea. I was living my whole life just to be the best chef in the world. That's all I ever knew. No one ever asked me who I was going to be, what I believed. No one ever cared to ask me any question about myself. Everybody just wants to know what do you want to do when you get older? So I focused on career, and my career started making me go crazy. So then when I got to church, they never asked me about my career. I actually tried to disassociate my career from myself, because that's all I ever knew was what I wanted to be, never who I was going to be. So it kind of like led me into a deeper place of understanding, and it changed my whole life. Like, I've been in church ever since that day, nonstop. I didn't grow up cooking. My mom cooked. I didn't spend much time watching her cook because I was always trying to go outside and have fun. But I used to go to my cousin's house every weekend I could. So we never cooked food, but we used to do stuff like, we used to make these slushies. We used to do fun things with our cereals. And we used to just like figure out ways to make food fun, but never cooking. Back in the day, Food Network wasn't what it is, not even a quarter of what it is today. But Emerald was everything. And I used to watch them all the time, every week, every night a show came on. When I had free time, I was sitting down watching Food Network. And I had that wasn't culturally acceptable where I was from. No guys really cooked. So it wasn't the cultural thing to do. But for some reason, that was my thing. And I was okay with that being mine. But my love for it, it never grew into a love until I got older, because I was just interested in cooking. And I think that's what makes it cool for me, is that I wasn't in love with it. I had never done it before when I got into it. I think a lot of people think that they need to love what they do when they started, and that's just not my story. And got into vocational school for it. I went to school to be a chef. And when I got into school, I learned the first day that when we did our knife skills and things of that sort, that I was really good. I had a teacher there who spoke life into me like I never had spoken. And that was really what changed my whole life and everything like that, because I remember her seeing my knife skills and her saying to me, like, Darnell, you got the knife skills of somebody who's been cutting for 30 years. You're great. You have the experience of somebody who's doing this forever. And my whole life, I had been waiting for somebody to tell me I was special. I was a junior in high school and never been told I was special at anything. So when she did that, it changed everything for me. We're doing something right now, right, called SuperChef's Academy. It's where I expose inner city kids to culinary arts. Cooking is the number 2 industry in the world, right? So all of our demographics were towards kids who were interested in cooking. I had never touched a knife before I got into culinary arts school. So I was like, we're missing a whole demographic of kids who don't know this is what they want to do. Like I did. I wrote a cookbook and I told myself I would never write a cookbook. It's not my thing. But God told me, like, it's my thing. And I want you to do my thing. And this is so fun because there's so many kids that want to be chefs, but have no guidance in what that looks like for their lives. So what I did was I wanted to have an answer for kids who are interested in cooking. People are looking for that confirmation that they are who God says they are. Life is a lot like cooking. Some recipes you can make in 10 minutes. Some recipes need 13 hours to cook. I like to think of it as a lot of things in life you can get done off of your just your will and your strength, like who you are as a person. Like some things you can accomplish in life like that. But the major things and most important things are the long roast beefs that go in the oven. And the crazy part about that oven is what cooks it, and that oven is God. Like no matter what you put in life, you got to put it in that oven, and God has to do the baking. You know what I'm saying? It's on His time, it's on His temperature, and it's gonna come out when it's supposed to come out, not when you want it to come out. God has answered prayers that we prayed for years before it came to fruition, like years of praying before we got a show. And I was doing Food Network for 7 years before I ever got a show. Always praying, always believing, sometimes struggling with timing, but He always delivered every single time when the prayer was not about making me super chef. You know, when the prayer was about me expanding His kingdom, when the prayer was about me using this for other people, when the prayer it was about bigger than me, they always came to fruition because it had a lot to do with His will. When you believe so much in God, it starts to change how you believe in yourself. I think it's important to know that we all have the ability to be a superhero. You know, we have to unlock these gifts that God gave us that are the world, our relationships, our history, our environment, our families, our religion, our churches. We don't have to go find them. They're already inside of us. I think for parents, it's important to understand that no matter what happens right now, where we're living in, where we're going to be remembered forever. I have 8 kids. I mean, we talk about Brady Bunch. They got nothing on me. I get to do the morning routine. So I get the kids up. We get breakfast. I get them dressed. I take them to school. But before every morning, we do devotionals together. So every morning we dive into, they see me read my Bible, they see me journal, and then while they're reading their devotions, I'm doing my stuff. And then every morning we get done, we have a conversation for like 20 minutes. We talk about their devotionals, we talk about their school, how we can apply this stuff to school. We want to make the Bible realistic for them. So this is a passage from the Jesus Storybook Bible called The Story and the Song. The Bible isn't a book of rules or a book of heroes. The Bible is most of all a story. It's an adventure story about a young hero who comes from a far country to win back his lost treasure. It's a love story about a brave prince who leaves his palace, his throne, everything, to rescue the ones he loves. It's like the most wonderful of fairy tales that has come true in real life. You see, the best thing about this story is, it's true. There are a lot of stories in the Bible, but all the stories are telling one big story. The story of how God loves His children and comes to rescue them. This passage right here is so good for me, so relatable to my story of like being super chef, because I ask people all the time, I said, what if the movies we watch, what if you were living that right now? And what if you found out one day that you were a superhero this whole time? The Bible is real. If you could change someone's day by your words, like that's a power. If you could control yourself not to act like you want to, but how your actual identity says this is how you're going to act from here on out, like that self-control is a power. You know, like it's like the things we're reading in the Bible, it's a real living, breathing story, and you're in it.
You can get the Jesus Storybook Bible wherever books are sold. To find out more about the book and all of Sally's other books, please visit Sally at SallyLloyd-Jones.com and follow her on Instagram at Sally Lloyd Jones and at Jesus_Storybook_Bible.
Before we go, don't forget, God loves you with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. Oh, hello, it's me again, Sally. I'm just popping back briefly to say 2 things. The first thing is, don't forget to subscribe to the show, because that way you'll get the stories straight to your phone. And the other thing is, while we're at it, would you rate the show and leave us a review? That would be so great because it helps other people find the show too. I really appreciate your help. Thank you.